Rape survivor, how I overcame sexual assault trauma. Hello, y'all. I'm Dianna, Brianne. I don't give advice, suggestions, information, recommendations. I do share with you my perspective on different topics. I hope you like, share, subscribe. All 5 of my channels have new and fresh content, different from each other, and all 5 channel names are pinned to the top of the comment section or the description box below. So how did I overcome sexual assault trauma? Well, I talk a lot about a lot of different subjects on here. I don't believe I've ever really talked in detail about sexual assault and what I had been through in my early 20s. But I'm going to talk about it today in hopes that maybe just the fact that someone else knows that there's other people out there that have experienced something like that may be helpful in some way. Like I said, I don't give advice or suggestions or information or anything like that, okay? I'm just sharing with you my personal story. Well, first of all, I did do a video called Angel Down the Dark Alley, and you can go look that one up. And I think I did a couple versions of it, the same story, but just I did it a couple different times. And that was about the time I got attacked. I was a young nurse. I think I was 20, just came out of nursing school. My first job was on a 3 to 11 shift at night, and often we would go out disco dancing afterward. And one night I came in, it was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, which was probably very typical for me, and anyone that was kind of following me or watching me kind of knew my standard time of coming home from work at night. Back then, I was living in Southern California in a beach community, and my garage was down a dark alley, and at the end of the alley, and it had one of those pull strings that you pulled the garage door down with before the electric door openers came. This was in the 70s. And so I came home. I was in my white nurse's uniform, which is very typical of what we wore back then. I think we'd gone out for a little bit after, even though we were wearing our uniforms, we'd gone out after. And so I was coming home from work, just, you know, being my usual self, not thinking much about anything in particular other than I was ready for bed and to take a nice bubble bath beforehand. And as I was putting down my garage door, 3 men jumped me. And I was thrown to the ground at knife point, and I was terrified. And they tried to ground my head into the gravel. There was some gravel. It was a cement, but there was gravel on that cement. And it was horrible, and I was terrified, and they had the knife to my throat. And all I remember is saying, "Dear Lord Jesus, please help me," because I remember what Grandma always said, call upon the name of Jesus, and I did. And all of a sudden, this big old smoking car, as I call it, with an old man, came around the corner, which no one came around that corner at 1 o'clock in the morning, let alone even during the day, because it was just garages. And he jumped out of his car with a big stick and shook it at these 3 guys. And they got up and ran. And everything was a haze from that point on, but I got myself up. My uniform was torn. And I was very traumatized, and I ran to my apartment, and I noticed that the man was gone, the old man. And that's why I noticed that I call him the angel in the old smoking car, or the angel down the dark alley. And so it was very traumatic. My roommate at the time called the police. They came over. I was a mess. I was in my nightgown. And this is back in the 70s, before there was all kinds of protocols and ways of handling things that are not done now. And I had been spared at that point. So I wanted, before I go on to the other story, I had been spared, and I was very, very grateful for that. And so, lo and behold, they couldn't find the guys. And lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, I was in my apartment. I had come home, and I heard some guys. I lived on the 2nd floor, and there were trees outside my window. And I saw some guys standing out there laughing, 2 o'clock in the morning, because they had woke me up. They didn't really realize exactly, I guess, what apartment I lived in. And they were talking about what had happened, and now they were waiting for someone else. So I called the police, waited about 20 minutes. I thought the police were coming. These were very, very long balconies. I was so brave and so foolish at the time. And I ran out with my mace, or it was pepper spray at the time. I ran out on the balconies that extended from one end of the apartment complex to the other. As the guys heard the police siren, they ran around the corner past the balcony. So I'm running, chasing these guys with this mace, or this pepper spray. I wasn't going to spray them, but I just wanted to make sure that I was protected in case they came back after me. Well, that particular police car was not coming there, I was soon to realize. So now I'm in my nightgown with these three guys, and they run into an apartment. So now everybody in the whole apartment complexes woke up because I'm out there yelling and screaming. And finally, when the police did get there, the guys never answered the door, and they did not make entry into that apartment. Long story short, I was later to go to a lineup and identify the guys and everything. And nothing was ever done as far as I understood. Later, I was to hear that there was an assault that took place. These guys did not live there, but they, I guess, frequented someone's apartment there. And so later there was another assault done, and I don't know whether the guys were arrested then at that point or what happened, but the assault was done elsewhere. But I was very traumatized for about 2 years. Anytime anyone would move too quickly towards me, I would jump back. If I heard a sound in the middle of the night, I would wake up. I put chairs by my door to kind of block it so that it couldn't open. I would stick the chair up underneath the doorknob. I put things in the window so that they could not open it. I was very traumatized, and it took me about 2 years of overcoming that trauma. So let's fast forward a few years. I was living in another beach community, a beautiful beach community, had roommates, and I just moved in. And everybody kind of warned me very subtly about this one neighbor, that to kind of just stay my distance from him. He wasn't to be trusted. There was some kind of reputation going on. They quite didn't explain it all to me, but they kind of implied things to me. So I stayed my distance. I was always a pleasant, nice person to everybody. And I was very young, very thin, very kind of skinny, but considered very pretty. And so one day I was coming back from the beach, and I only had my keys in my hand. Now back then I didn't carry pepper spray on my keychain. And I was coming back, and this guy motioned for me, and he said, "Hey, I got a question to ask you. Can you come on my patio for a moment?" Well, the patio seemed like a safe area, so I did. He had glass sliding doors. It was summertime. And he said, "I really got something to ask you and talk to you, but it's very personal." Once I got up to that point, he said, "Would you step in a moment?" And I was hesitant, but I thought, okay, the glass doors are open. It's daytime. I'm safe. And so I stepped in. But as soon as I stepped in, he shut the glass sliding doors. He said, "Oh, don't worry. I'm just shutting them because of the air conditioning." But it was a very beautiful day, and we really didn't need air conditioning, so I was very, very uncertain. Before I knew it, he grabbed my arm and pulled me onto the couch. And I really tried to get away from that grip, and he kind of let go for the moment. And then he said, "I find you very, very beautiful, and I want you," and tried to start kissing me. Well, immediately I tried to get away, but he grabbed both of my wrists, and he overpowered me. And so I was overpowered, and he pulled me into his bedroom, onto his bed, and I fought, and I fought, and I kicked, and I screamed, and I fought, and I fought. And to no avail. He was much, much stronger than me. And so I prayed. I prayed again. And at that moment, he had just gotten a new roommate. And this new roommate was a young man studying to be an attorney. And he was in law school, I think. And as soon as he walked in, the guy that held me down let go. And I ran out as fast as I could. I didn't talk to the roommate. I just ran out. I didn't know what to do because, remember, I had experienced similar trauma. I had experienced a similar trauma, and nothing was done to those guys. Nothing was done at all. This was at a different time period, a different era. Now, I want to first of all say most men are wonderful. Those were really the only two situations I ever had with any men that were like that, ever. All men, most men are wonderful and amazing. And so I don't want people to think that all men are bad, because most men are wonderful. And there are women that are not good. There are women that can be, quote, bad as well. So we don't ever want to label somebody or put people in a category, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about these two particular situations that were very traumatic for me. Lo and behold, once again, nothing was done to this guy. He shortly moved away, and I don't know whatever became of him after. But I had been warned, and I really should not have even, in hindsight, ever gone anywhere close to where he was. And he was very subtle about it, and he kind of led me slowly into his apartment, which I was young. You have to keep in mind, I was young. Okay, and you know, sometimes you think you're invincible and things won't happen, even though I had been through a very traumatic experience before that. And this was many, many years ago, before all the kind of awareness and everything that there is now. And the reason I talk about this in a video is just that whether you're a man or a woman or anybody, just stay aware of your surroundings. And if something doesn't feel right, then perhaps step back from it. Don't move towards it, as I did. Even though I knew that what everybody had said and I didn't feel comfortable, I moved towards it in a sense. Not blaming myself at all, but I moved towards it rather than away. And that was the mistake that I had made. And so it took me quite a while to overcome that. But I think the first trauma that I had been through down the dark alley was the most traumatic. That took me the longest. So how did I overcome it? For me, we didn't have therapy back then. We didn't have counseling. We didn't have all the things in place that there is now. And so for me, it took time. It took time, good friendship. I didn't have those kind of resources available to help me through it. And like I said, this goes way, way back in time. And so, I survived it. I'm here to talk about it. I'm a whole person. I'm a healed person. And my journey in life and through my experiences is to help others know that they're not alone through whatever kind of situation they're going through. They're not alone, that there's somebody else that has been through something or something similar to what they've gone through, survived it, and learned to thrive again. Okay? So be safe, be alert, be aware, stay aware. Okay? And make right decisions. From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.